Okay, so you guys sent in some really interesting stuff about time management.
And it seems like everyone's asking the same question.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get more done
Right.
without feeling totally overwhelmed?
Yeah.
And to help us unpack that today, we're turning to a classic,
Okay.
Brian Tracy's Time Management.
Oh, I love that book. He's got such a good way of explaining things.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it really is.
So what stood out to you?
You know, it's funny because we often think of time management as like,
Right.
all these external systems.
Calendars and lists.
Yeah, exactly. Like just got to be more organized.
Yep.
But Tracy really gets at the psychology of it.
Oh, interesting. The
Yeah.
psychology of time.
Yeah, and how like what we believe about our own time management skills actually impacts, how we perform.
Oh, that makes sense.
Like if you keep telling yourself, I'm just bad at this.
So disorganized.
Yeah, you're probably going to live up to that expectation.
Totally a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
So we need to shift that inner dialogue.
We do. And he talks about self-esteem and self-efficacy as being super important.
Okay, break those down for me.
So self-esteem is like really valuing yourself right. And self-efficacy is that belief that you can actually achieve your goals.
Okay, so it's like believing in yourself and believing in your ability to actually get things done.
Yeah. So the more confident you are in your ability to manage time,
Mm-hmm.
the more likely you are to actually do it well.
So it's not just about the to-do list. It's about how we talk to ourselves about our to-do list.
Totally. Like you need to be your own time management cheerleader.
Love that.
Right.
Okay, so we've got this whole inner game figured out.
Yeah.
But then there's the actual doing part.
Right. And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, so what's next?
Well, Tracy talks about the importance of values.
Values.
Yeah, like why you do what you do.
Okay.
Because it's not just about being efficient.
It's got to be the right things.
Exactly. You could be incredibly efficient at something that doesn't even matter.
Right. That's not really helping anyone.
Exactly. So aligning your time with your values is key.
So it's about speed and direction.
Yes.
You got it.
Okay. I'm seeing some notes here about thinking fast and slow. Is that Kahneman's work?
Yes. It's perfect for this.
How does that fit in?
So Kahneman talks about those two systems of thinking right.
Yeah, remind us.
So system one, that's a fast, intuitive one,
Okay.
more emotional.
Gotcha.
And then system two, that's where we slow down, the more deliberate one.
Yeah. Logical takes effort.
And I'm guessing we need both for this whole time management thing.
We do. Because system one helps us make those quick decisions throughout the day.
Right, like what to eat for lunch.
Exactly. But if we only use system one, we end up reacting to everything.
Oh, I see.
Just putting out fires all day long.
Instead of focusing on what really matters.
Exactly. So system two is essential for actually getting to those big picture goals.
Okay, so we've got to be intentional.
Yes,
Have a plan.
absolutely. And I bet your listeners are ready for some action steps.
Oh, I'm sure they are. Give us the good stuff.
All right, well, Tracy's a big believer in written plans.
Oh, I'm all about writing things down.
Right.
Something about getting it out of my head and onto paper
Yes.
makes it feel more real.
It makes a difference.
Okay, so what does Tracy say about planning?
He says, every minute invested in planning saves 10 minutes in execution.
Ooh, I like that.
Right.
Okay, I'm sold on planning, but how do we even start?
You've actually already you sent us those sources for this whole deep dive, right?
True.
So clearly you've got goals.
Yes.
We just need to connect those to a concrete plan.
Okay, love it. Let's get concrete.
All right, well, one tool Tracy talks about is the ABCDE method.
The ACDE method, what's that?
It's a way to prioritize your tasks.
Okay, tell me more.
So you categorize everything based on its consequences.
Okay.
So A, tasks, those are the most important.
Got it.
Serious consequences if you don't do them.
High stakes.
Right. Then B, tasks, those are important, but not quite as urgent. And then you've got C tasks, nice to do, but not the end of the world if they don't get done.
So it's like a ranking system for our to-do lists.
Exactly.
A's at the top, get those done first.
Exactly.
Then work your way down.
You got it.
Makes sense. But what about those tasks that all feel like A's?
Oh,
How do
yeah.
you prioritize within the A category?
Well, that's where understanding your values comes in handy.
Okay.
Because those A tasks that are aligned with your bigger goals, those are going to naturally rise to the top.
Right. So it's not just about urgency, it's also about the long-term impact.
Exactly. It's about breaking free from what Tracy calls the tyranny of the urgent.
Ooh, the tyranny of the urgent. I like that. Stealing that one.
It's a big good one.
So this whole idea of focusing on what's important, not just urgent,
Yeah.
reminds me of the Pareto principle. That came up in one of the listener
Yeah,
sources.
a 80-20 rule.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Can you remind us how that works again?
Yeah, so basically it says that 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts.
Okay.
So it's all about identifying that vital few.
Right. Those tasks that really move the needle.
Exactly. And then making those your priority.
So spending more time on those high-impact 20% tasks, even if it means maybe letting go of some of those smaller, less significant 80% tasks.
Yes.
Working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. And sometimes working smarter means handing tasks off completely.
Delegation.
Yes.
In theory, it sounds amazing.
Right.
Free up your time,
Mm.
focus on the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people struggle with delegation,
Absolutely.
myself included.
It's hard to let go of control.
It is. You think, oh, but I'm the only one who can do it right. But then you end up burning yourself out, and the quality of your work suffers anyway.
Exactly. You actually do it worse because you're trying to do everything.
It's so true.
Yeah. So Tracy really emphasizes how important it is to delegate effectively.
Okay, so how do we do that? Any tips from the master?
Well, he talks a lot about clarity,
Oh,
like being super clear about what you want the outcome to be,
got it.
providing the necessary resources and support,
Yeah,
and then trusting the person you've delegated to.
trust is key.
It is. Because if you're micromanaging, then it defeats the whole purpose.
Right, you're just creating more work for yourself in the long run.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about delegating tasks, but what about those tasks that maybe we can't delegate, but maybe they shouldn't even be on our plate at all?
Yes. That's where the do not do list comes in.
A do not do list.
Yes.
Okay, I've never thought about that.
It's basically deciding what you're not going to spend your time on.
Okay.
So maybe it's something that's draining your energy.
Right.
Maybe it doesn't really align with your values.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just not essential to your goals.
It's like a reverse to-do list.
Yes, exactly. Instead of adding, you're subtracting.
Okay, how do we decide what goes on this do not do list?
Tracy's got some tough love questions for this.
Okay, get me.
Like, is this activity truly necessary?
Ooh, okay.
Does it actually contribute to my key result areas?
Key result areas? What are those again?
Right, good question. So Tracy defines key result areas, or KRAs, as the vital contributions you make in your work.
Okay.
So they're those core responsibilities that, when done well, really make the biggest difference in your overall performance.
So understanding those few areas where your efforts really have the greatest impact.
Yes,
And then really protecting your time so you can focus on those.
exactly.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Yes.
It's all about aligning your time and energy with what truly matters.
Yes. Creating a system that helps you to work smarter, not harder.
And I think that system is going to look different for everyone. Right?
Absolutely.
There's no one size fits all.
Right, because we all have different values.
Yes.
Different goals.
Different work styles.
Exactly. So it's about understanding your own unique relationship with time.
Figuring out what works for you.
Yes. And that's what makes Tracy's book so helpful.
Yeah.
It's a framework for thinking about this stuff more holistically.
Right. It's not just about checking things off a list.
Exactly. It's about taking control of your time and your life.
It's about empowerment.
Yes.
It's
Exactly.
giving me so many ideas for my own time management.
Mhm.
But let's bring it back to our listeners for a second.
Okay.
You know, you've been highlighting some key points from the sources that they sent in.
Yes.
But how can our listeners identify their own key result areas?
That's a great question. Well, it starts with thinking about what really makes you feel good at work.
Okay.
Like, what are those tasks that give you a sense of accomplishment?
Where you feel like you're making a real difference.
Exactly. What are the core outcomes you're responsible for?
Right.
And what happens if those things don't get done?
It's about the impact of those tasks.
Yes. So if you did these things exceptionally well, what would be the biggest positive impact
Okay.
on your work, on your team?
Got it.
Those are likely within your KRAs.
So once you know your KRAs,
Yeah.
how do you actually structure your day around them?
Well, Tracy talks about something called time blocking.
Time blocking. Yeah, I've heard of that.
Have you tried it?
I've experimented with it.
Yeah.
I struggle a bit with sticking to a rigid schedule.
Right.
Like life happens, things come up.
Of course. It's not about being totally rigid.
Yeah.
It's more about having that framework
Got it.
to help you prioritize.
Right. So if something urgent comes up, you adjust, but you always come back to those KRAs.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because otherwise it's so easy to just get swept up.
Right, you're just reacting to
Oops,
everything.
All those interruptions,
Mhm.
emails, phone calls.
Oh my gosh, the notifications. How do we manage all of that and stay focused?
Right. Well, Tracy talks about being proactive.
Okay.
Setting boundaries is key.
Boundaries.
Yeah, like having a dedicated workspace.
Okay.
Maybe turning off those notifications.
Ooh, that's a tough one,
I know, right?
but probably a good one.
It helps. Even just scheduling specific times to check email.
So it's not taking over your whole day.
Exactly.
So it's about taking control of your attention.
Yes.
Both externally and internally.
Right, because if you're exhausted, all the boundaries in the world aren't going to help.
It's true.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to self-care.
Right. It all ties together.
Getting enough sleep,
Yes.
eating well, taking breaks.
It makes a difference.
Might seem like it's not related to time management, but it really is.
Absolutely. Because it impacts your energy, your focus.
Right. If you're burnt out, you're not going to manage your time well at all.
Exactly.
So we've got to take care of ourselves.
We do.
All right. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you're going to apply today to start taking back control of your time?
We've talked a lot about how precious time is, right? And how important it is to spend it on the things that matter most. But what if time itself wasn't actually the real constraint?
Okay. Now you're just messing with me.
Think about it. What if the real limiting factor was our understanding of the value we're creating? That's something I'm going to be pondering.
I love that. Something for us all to think about.
Right?
All right. Well, on that note, thank you so much for diving into this with me today.
This was fun. Thanks for having me.